Donna Balachi, board-certified dermatologist, lifestyle medicine enthusiast, and owner of Bergen Dermatology, and I am here today with Kelly and Maya at deVINE Plantery. And I'm really, really excited to be here to talk about their journey and how they are making their community healthy with plants, because ecotherapy is the practice of plants in nature and how it helps boost growth and healing. And there have been so many studies that have actually shown that hypertension and stress have been diminished by plants. So how did you guys meet, first of all? Let's just tell everybody about that.
For sure.
Well, to start, we've been best friends for a super long time. I guess you can say going on 20 years now, even though we're still in our 20s.
Yeah.
We met at Clinton Elementary School in Maplewood, New Jersey?
Yes,
So second grade. We've been lifelong friends, so
Yes.
it's been a long time.
Awesome.
And we've just been like sisters ever since. And Kelly we've always had this interest in plants over these last couple of years. And Kelly's little sister kind of had this idea during the height of COVID.
Yeah, so we, as you know, we couldn't do anything during COVID.
Yeah.
We were both working from home, which was super nice.
Well, what was your background? Tell us.
So I went to school for bioengineering. I went to Temple, and then Maya also joined me in Philly. She went to LaSalle.
Nice.
And
For marketing.
Yes.
I'm a Temple grad. I went to Temple Medical School.
Okay.
Oh,
But so upon graduation, I landed a job at Becton Dickinson, one of the medical device companies up here in New Jersey. I would say 3 months in, the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to work from home. I mean, as an engineer, you don't really think you can do that in general because I was very hands-on. So first 2-3 months, I didn't really have much to do besides walk and try to still be healthy and energized. So my sister and I would go on these quarantine walks, as we called them. Then one day we were just walking, and it was at the height of me stuffing my room full of plants. I was just like, oh, I can fit it here on the corner of the table, or maybe over here. But she was like, it's a really empty building. It'd be nice to have plants. I'm like, okay, well, would it be crazy if I have a plant shop? She was like, no, of course not. And I was like, wow, okay, great. But then realizing she's 10 years younger than me, so that means she was 15 at the time, right? I was like, let me just ask some other adults. So I texted the group chat with all of our friends, including Maya, hoping that she'd be like, okay, that's not crazy, that's a good idea. Because she actually got me into plants, so she'll get into that. She dragged me along all the trips, but now here we are.
I know, right?
But, hoping that she'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds good, or no, that's crazy. She was like, I'll go 50-50 with you.
I was very quick. I was like, I'll have in literally 30 minutes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It worked out. Our other friends were like, oh, that sounds cute, that sounds cool to them. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
I was like, how much money do we need?
Wow. And Maya, so you went in 50-50.
Yes.
Okay. So
I was
tell
ready
us.
for it. So, as Kelly mentioned, we were both in Philadelphia, and I was at LaSalle, which is a much smaller school, Catholic school, and I graduated, and I went right into the workforce. Literally graduated Sunday. First day of work was Monday. I was like, I don't have time for partying, vacation, I need to make this money. So I went right into a really high energy, very competitive digital marketing agency.
Okay.
Very high stress, lots of data. It was a lot for me, and that's a lot. Lots of late nights of reporting. I was working with client facing, the whole shebang. And I'm like, this is high stress. And that's when I got into plants, because there was an amazing plant shop right downstairs called Stump, Philadelphia, and they're actually a really big inspiration for us, which is awesome. And I found myself on my, either happy hour after work, going to the plant shop and buying a couple plants, and then also during my lunch breaks, I would literally just go downstairs and walk around it. And I found it was that was my brain's I was taking time off from the stressful work day, enjoying the plant shop, enjoying the vibes. And that's kind of how I got into plants in Philly, and I started dragging Kelly along with me.
That was the best friend. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I just want to hang out with my friend.
Yeah.
I really care about this whole plant stuff.
Yeah.
I'll come, no big deal.
And I found I wasn't making a ton of money at the time, because it was entry level associate position, and I couldn't go out every weekend to go out to brunch and all the things I wanted to do. So I found myself, I filled my place with plants, because I did have a couple roommates, so my room was full of plants. And that was my Sunday routine. I was waking up, having a coffee, tending to all of my plants, playing music, misting them, And that's kind of how I got into, like, it was like a mindfulness routine for me on the weekends.
I love it.
And that's kind of like where our interest really came from. It's just like using plants as an escape and really enjoying taking care of them, for sure.
And I love hearing that, you know, your journey into plants and your journey into plants were completely different.
Yeah.
However, they were all helping you guys decompress and manage your stress levels.
For sure.
You know, in dermatology, there's something called inflammation. And inflammation is seen in acne, it's seen in psoriasis, it's seen in eczema. And if we can diminish our inflammation, which it helps diminish acne and all those inflammatory diseases. So, and one way is to de-stress, you know, and so that's why I'm thinking that if we can share with everybody that if you purchase plants, maybe that could help with your decompression, with the help with the stress levels.
It really, truly does. And we kind of were just like, you know, really big proponents of that. And that's why our slogan, we have it like on the top of the window, is turning plant care into a lifestyle, because it's like caring for your plants is like, it's like a big factor in like how happy you are and all of that, and it's really is a lifestyle change to make, and that's why we made it our slogan. It's like on all of our stuff.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about your journey and why it's so important to incorporate plants into your lifestyle and how it helps manage stress levels and so forth. And now why don't we go through some plants that are easy to take care of, and maybe we could try to figure out how to rehab some of my plants.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. You know, we've actually found some plants around the store, and some of them are fun plants and some of them are easygoing plants. And you know, during those stressful times, we always want to have a little bit of fun to decompress, and we need things that are easygoing. So Kelly and Maya, why don't you take it away?
Yes, for sure.
Well, I'll get started with very easy care. Most of the basic plants, they still can be pretty fun, but most of them are slow growers and really good for entry-level plant parents. So to start, we've got the snake plant. Honestly, one of my favorites, because you kind of just leave them alone and they do not need anything. They don't need as much light, and they can get as tall as like 3 feet plus, which is like really cool to see.
Okay.
Basically low light, you don't need a lot, and then you only water them about once a month.
Once a month?
They're
Really?
At the soonest, every 2 weeks, and that's in the summer if you have it in a bright spot. But typically, most people have them in the corners where it's not a ton of light. They won't be upset. They won't thrive though.
Okay.
So the more light you give it, the more it'll thrive. The less light, it's not going to be unhappy, but it'll be chilling, which is nice.
Is that a cactus? Like, how is it able to be watered once a month?
They have these really thick leaves that hold in all the water. So if you've ever seen a snake plant that is drooping or like soppy and wet, it is way too much water. And they have these really thick root systems where, I don't know if you can see, but the pot is kind of protruding where the little baby is coming from. They hold a lot of water in the roots as well, so they can dry out pretty easily and then like take in water easily as well too, so they never need too much care, which is great.
I love it.
Yeah,
Easy
those
going.
are great.
I always recommend these to our beginners because sometimes they might not have a lot of time to give care and they need something that's not going to die, honestly. It's never a great feeling to have a plant die, especially when you just get it in. It's very shocking. I've gotten over it, but a lot of people have not. So moving on, we've got our Dracaenas. So we'll start off with the baby. This is a Dracaena white jewel, and it's really cool because it kind of curves in a way and like a spiral kind of motion. It's got really nice striations and stripes, but still a very easy care and entry-level plant. Pretty much the same as a snake plant, as they are now classified in the same family, which is interesting. A little frustrating for us plant people because the snake plants were originally Sansevierias. They had their own genus, and then Dracaenas as well have their own. But because they grow so similar and have similar roots, they decided to combine them.
I think they said there was like more similarities than differences in their genetic makeup, which caused them to be classified, which is awesome. But like a lot of people are like, oh, that's a Dracaena, and we're like, it's a snake plant. Which
means they have to change a lot of wording. But
it
is what it is.
Which we haven't done. We're sticking to our guns.
So after some time, this little guy can get to this size.
Which is really
this
pretty.
one is slightly different. This is a Dorado. My personal Dracaena.
Yeah, they're so
favorite.
pretty.
It's a little light green on the side.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It's really cute.
And they still do not need a ton of light.
Yeah.
So low to medium light is great.
Perfect.
Even if you put them in bright light, they're not going to grow super quickly.
Yeah.
So they're kind of slow growers, like I mentioned with the snake plant. but you kind of just let them sit, let them make your space beautiful, and then just care for them every now and then, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Very hands off.
I feel like a lot of people think of these as like office plants, which is like, so I sometimes be like, oh, I don't really like them because they can just live off of like fluorescent light, specifically the dracaenas. But I feel like they're so pretty. I feel like I want people to get out of that mindset of these being office plants because they're also just like, they're very like tropical looking, they're fun, and in the right space they can do a lot.
That's
so
cool.
we love them. Yeah.
I love that they're multicolored, the berry greens, very, very
That's
pretty.
the thing about dracaenas. They come in so many different. So here's another one actually.
A little bit different.
Bright
like
green,
lime,
bright green.
yeah.
But literally the exact same thing. They have tons and tons of different varieties and colors. They have ones where you do need a bit more light actually. So that would be in Maya's category with the fun stuff.
The fun stuff.
Don't worry about that, we'll get to that.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
So the last one for our easy care that we always recommend is a Pothos. And just like the dracaenas, they come in many different varieties and colors. I don't know if you can see this guy back here, but this one has really nice bright yellow and green, and it's supposed to be yellow. It's not the bad yellow.
Yeah.
Bad yellow means like a watering issue,
Overwatering,
but
yeah.
this is supposed to be this way. But the cool thing about Pothos is, despite how little care it needs, it will always grow.
Yes.
It will put out continuous growth as much as you give it a decent amount of light, and then also watering. So with these guys, I personally keep mine in a very bright window because I like for it to grow. Like I have one that's 8 feet long.
Oh, wow.
It took over my room. I had to start wrapping it around the window. But because of that, it needs a little bit more water. So the more light you give it, the more nutrients you have to give it. So about every week I was watering. But luckily with these guys, especially the darker green leaves, like this one is the Jade Pothos, you don't need a ton of light. So low to medium, just like the rest of the plants I showed, and water every, I would say close to 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're like, I always call those like the plant that your mom has had for like 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, they are just like almost indestructible, which is really nice.
And they're very forgiving. Like this
They are.
one is going to need water soon. As you can see, the leaves are starting to droop just a little bit, but it's a really nice way to tell when they need water without having to freak out about it.
Yeah.
I let mine droop.
Yeah.
They're like, please,
Yeah,
give me
give
water.
me something.
I'm gonna die.
Station now.
Exactly. They perk right back up super
Yeah,
quickly.
very
So
Now,
that's
does this
one
have to
thing.
hang, or you could just put it in a pot and just let it do its thing?
Personally, I would say hanging is best. They can just keep growing and not maybe interfere with anything.
Okay.
But you can elevate it so it's like hanging off of a bookshelf, which is
Yeah,
really nice.
that's good.
Or you can put it on a pole, which is like a trellis or something
Yeah.
to have it grow upwards too, which is really cool.
Awesome.
They're very flexible.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, great. So now that Kelly's gone through kind of like our easy care plants that are great for beginners or just like, you know, slow growing and watch them grow over time, I'm gonna go into like the fun, kind of interesting ones that are not only interesting to look at, but they kind of are like just super fun to watch grow.
They're still easy too.
They're all
That's
easy
super.
still. So they're interesting and easy.
We all want easy.
Yes. So, okay, I think I'm gonna start with the crispy wafer. So this is a really fun fern. I feel like whenever we think about ferns, like sometimes people are like, they like dry up in my house and they get really sad and I just like can't because they need the humidity. The nice thing about this guy is that it doesn't really need that much humidity and it grows from the center there, which is really awesome. And they kind of just grow and sit and are happy and they have like this like waxy type of feel, which most ferns don't have. Most ferns seem like very delicate, but since this guy has like such thick leaves, it just kind of can hang out and it's really forgiving. The one thing is like, again, kind of like with Kelly's plants, it's super forgiving. They actually start getting like a dull gray color when they need water and they start feeling really thin. So this one's really hydrated right now, but when it needs water, they get thin and gray looking. It's really, like you can look at it and you can put two next to each other and one is obviously gray and they just rehydrate really easily. And we always say just don't water them in the center because that's where they grow from and you can like rot the roots out from the middle. So yeah, that's the crispy wafer.
I have a large one in my kitchen, and you're right. When it's like it's time for me to water it, so it's like kind of like
Yeah,
right
it's like
now.
Yeah, it's like not nearly as like shiny or anything when it needs water.
Luckily, your pets can chew on that one.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Pet friendly.
Don't let them, but they can chew on it with no problem.
Yes. Pet friendly plants. We have a lot of customers who have pets and also kids who might get into the plants. So we try to have like a really good selection of pet friendly stuff. But also pet friendly just also means human friendly as well. If it's toxic, it's toxic to all all organisms. But for these guys, it's totally okay if a cat or dog or kid gets into it.
Right.
Okay, great. So I think I'm gonna move on to the Pepperomia, our next pet-friendly plant. This is the marble Pepperomia, if I'm not mistaken, and it has like this really beautiful, like kind of like marble variegated leaves. And variegation just means the pattern on the leaf outside of just like a basic green.
Yeah.
So this guy is fun because it is, again, super easy care. It loves like a bright window. And they again have these like waxy leaves. So that's what you find a lot of times with like hardier plants. Like that thicker leaf that holds a lot of water, which usually translates to less watering in general because they hold so much water in their leaves. This guy, again, pet friendly, bright light. I would say we find our customers water these about every like week and a half. Just because in the brighter the sunlight, the more you're probably gonna water it. But these guys are great because they just get like bushy and they get taller and they're easy to propagate, which is fun, which means you can take cuttings from it, take one of these leaves, put it in soil, and it'll turn into a new plant, which is really fun to share with friends. And we have 2 other plants that are really easy to propagate that I'll show you. But this one's fun just because it's fun to look at, easy to care for, and that's why we always recommend this guy to almost everyone.
I love the colors, and it's actually quite thick.
It's thick.
Yeah.
So we don't water them until these are thin. Again. So sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Sometimes it's like only a week or something like that. So it's really nice because they like communicate with you. You know what I mean? And that's I think a part of like the whole wellness aspect of it is just like taking the time to like feel them, see how they're doing, really inspect them, and then taking that time to deliver that care, which is always really fun.
Absolutely.
It's like a break. Okay, so I think I'll go into the Monstera deliciosa next, one of our favorites. This guy is like one of the plants we literally cannot keep in stock for the most part, just because this is a baby. It's a 6-inch Monstera. Finally, one of the ones that again is like one of the plants we cannot keep in stock is the Tradescantia nanug. So this guy has these really hot pink leaves, which is really fun, and they're kind of like a trailing plant. So this guy's not pet friendly. I always get that one wrong. But they keep this really pink color throughout their entire life cycle, which is cool. I feel like a lot of, again, those thick leaves.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times when we see plants that have this color, it's kind of like it doesn't last long. Or, you know what I mean? Or it fades, it starts out bright and then fades to a different color. But this guy, they stay really hot pink and purple like this, and then the undersides have that kind of like pinkish purple color as well. They stay like this throughout their entire life cycle, and they grow so quickly as well.
Mine is overwhelmed my window.
Yeah, they grow very quickly. And I just love these guys because they're easy to care for. Bright and direct light is great for them. About every week and a half is when you water them. And they also have a really pretty flower that comes out of these in the spring. Yeah, and apparently they smell really good. I haven't had one flower yet. But Kelly's has, and apparently the flowers, not only are they beautiful, but they smell really good as well. So, and these guys are fun to propagate as well. I forgot to mention that about the Monstera. You can chop these up,
So easy.
put them in water, and share them with your friends, which is really nice.
So you don't need soil?
No, at the beginning. Yeah.
For a few of them, yes. So the Pothos and the Montclair, probably the easiest to propagate. You just clip where the node is, stick it in water for like a few weeks, and it'll grow roots, which is awesome. You can keep it in the water, or you can put it in soil, whichever floats your boat. Water is a bit easier for it to transfer over to.
Yes, exactly.
With those, I would say either or is pretty good.
You can chop a piece of this off and drop it in soil, and it'll just like keep growing. Yeah, we have a lot of people who like make if it's like really thin at the top, they just cut it, fill in the spaces, and it just grows. So we love these guys. So yeah, those are like some of our fun, easy care plants that, not only are they easy, but they're really rewarding. So that's kind of like our selection.
Thank you for that nice summary of easygoing, fun plants. And I guess the question I have for you is, what do you do when you kill a plant? Yes, so I have this plant that I bought, and let's say for instance, we bought one of the fun plants, but it turns into this. So is this dead? Is this alive? What should we do?
So based on the color of the leaves, well, some of them, they still have some vibrance in them.
It's not dead.
A little crunchy, but it's okay. So usually a crunchiness is a lack of water or a lack of moisture and humidity in the air.
Okay.
But as long as you have leaves still there and some
Yes.
being produced, like these ones look pretty new on this
Yeah,
side.
so that's new growth over here.
That's always positive.
Okay.
So that's a good sign.
Okay.
When we don't see any new growth or any, well, it's not always green because it does depend on the plant, but if we don't see any areas of new growth, for me, I noticed like this little sprout over here is actually trying to, come out. So what we usually recommend, we do have a plant rehab service that we do.
Love that.
We do
The plant
plant
doctors.
rehab. So here, what we would probably do is recommend kind of like cutting it back. So the
okay.
leaves that are kind of like crunchy on here, the plant is still probably trying to give some energy to those. So to give it the best chance, we would usually just recommend like cutting it back. So I see there's new growth here and here, so I would probably just cut the stem right there. Maybe only half of this one, and then new soil. So it definitely is in need of new soil. We find that happens a lot with our clients when they had a plant that was thriving for a long time and suddenly went in a really wrong turn. Sometimes like the plant is just like not really grabbing any nutrients from its soil anymore, or maybe the soil's compacted. Old soil. So when you water, if you notice the water's going right through, that means the plant's not pulling anything from the soil. It's literally just passing by them. It's not giving it time. Literally, the roots are like high and by to the water. So it needs like that really like dense soil for the most part. And usually like a soil refresh is what I would just recommend here. And then trim soil refresh, and it should be good to go, honestly. And this is a nerve plant.
So what does that mean?
So it's just a type.
Okay.
I'm like, wait a minute. The nervous system is intact.
Yeah.
It's called a nerve plant because the striations on the leaves resolve the nerves a little bit, especially in the white color, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But it's also called a Fertonia.
Yes, Pepperomia.
Multiple names.
And these guys love humidity. So they love humidity. We find a lot of times when people have plants, like we have our prayer plants, love humidity, and some of the other ones. So we have 2 humidifiers running in here right now. We find that people will put it near their plants near a radiator, which sucks all the moisture right out of the air. And usually that's what happens when we get crunchiness or something like that, or also an AC unit too, that also messes with the humidity levels. So we always say try to keep these more humidity sensitive plants away from those things, because you'll end up with some crunchiness, and it won't necessarily die, but it just won't be happy.
And they're very dramatic.
Yes, these
They
guys are
are
dramatic.
the plants where, when we were talking about the other ones, where it'll show you in terms of thickness and if they're droopy, they will flat out basically die on you, or so it seems, and then you give it water. Okay, I'm fine.
Oh, really?
You will walk in one day and oh, my plant died. Because they just flatten out. It's crazy.
It's a very shocking experience. So for new people and beginners, okay, maybe we'll wait on that one. Because you don't want to walk in and think you killed it, and it's totally fine.
Exactly.
We don't want you to throw it out or anything.
Yeah.
But they do perk back up, which is nice. And like Maya said, with the crunchier leaves, or the ones that are browning, clip them off. Because they're not going to serve any purpose anymore. They're not going to go back to green or whatever color they were before. So at that point, it's just using energy that the other new growth can use.
But this guy can definitely be rehabbed. We probably would put it in I would probably put it in a smaller pot too.
Okay.
Yeah, just because it's really easy to overwater sometimes. Once your plant thins out, and if you put it back in the same size pot, then it'll might get overwhelmed. Now it's I have all this moisture all
nowhere for it to go.
Yes, exactly. So
and what soil should you use to repurpose, or to change it out?
Pretty much just any well draining potting mix. Nothing that's for the outdoors.
Yes, no outdoor soil.
As long as it says potting mix on it, or preferably indoor potting mix, or a container mix, that's really good for it.
I love these tips.
Because the outdoor potting mix is actually way too dense for houseplants for the most part. It'll hold way too much water, and then your plant will probably drown. Outdoor soil gets really clumpy easily.
It break the roots.
And it gets muddy and heavy.
Whereas
indoor mix, there's they specially mix different materials, and perlite, which are these little white balls, which you might have seen in your soil, to aerate it, making sure the roots never feel suffocated. So we have a couple preferences, but you can't really go wrong as long as it's just indoor mix.
Perfect. I know when we were talking, you mentioned misting. in addition to watering. So how often should you mist, and how often, water depends on the plant, but how often should you mist?
So misting, I've learned more recently that my Pilea, which is a very bright indirect light plant, typically it doesn't need a lot of misting because they're very hardy, the leaves are very thick. But when I mist the stems and right at the base pretty often, it's been growing so much more. So the more moisture you give it, aside from soaking the roots, it'll just add that humidity, so it'll encourage it to grow. But plants like Maya mentioned, which is the petunias and the nerve plants, and also the prayer plants, they need that higher humidity because their leaves are already pretty thin. So putting it near a humidifier is really good, or misting it probably every few days, or especially the stems and the undersides of the leaves too. It's really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think like also if you think about it, most houseplants are actually tropical plants. A lot of them come from like East Asia, the South Pacific, like so many different places. Like most houseplants are not native to North America. They're all like tropical and warm regions, and so for them to really thrive and be happy, you kind of have to replicate that in your home for them to be like as happy as they possibly can be, which is where that humidity thing comes in. Like the Monstera, they live in the rainforest, you know what I mean? Like they love to be humid, and like that's why they actually don't need too much sunlight because they live below the canopy, which is really interesting. Like some of the other plants we have here, so. The rainforest, living in a rainforest probably doesn't seem like the best idea. You know, I get it.
Be good for your skin.
It's good for your skin, right? But as long as you like mist once in a while to try to at least help the plant to feel like it's at home, that would be
Temperature
great.
is a big thing also.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Especially in the colder months, if you live like in a cooler climate where we have seasons like New Jersey. Plants do not need to be outside, despite maybe it's sunny today, do not bring them outside. They need at least, at the bare minimum, 55 degrees and up, and that's even pushing it.
Yeah, 55 is like pushing it, like that's like for maybe like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah,
really.
And it's too cold. They need like at least 65 and up is pretty good. Household like comfortable temperature. If you don't feel comfortable outside in it, your plants probably won't feel
comfortable.
Exactly.
For sure.
Very interesting.
And that's the same for putting it next to like a heat source. It will burn up.
If it's too hot.
Even though that radiator might be right in front of a window, which gives great light, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's okay, wait till the spring.
We keep it about 70 degrees in the shop at any given time.
Excellent.
Just like a good comfortable level for the plants. Not too hot, not too cold.
Perfect. So thank you so much for spending time with our community and teaching them about all these tips. I feel like Dr. Maya and Dr. Kelly gave you they are the plant doctors. They gave us some really interesting tips on how to take care of these easy, fun plants, and I think everyone should just start and just try it. And and just going to a local nursery and getting acquainted with the owners and just knowing how to take care of plants. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So where can people find you? Please tell us.
So we are located here in Montclair, New Jersey at 28 South Fullerton Ave.
Yeah.
We are right in this like atrium kind of space, which kind of replicates a greenhouse a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Even though we're like
warm out there.
on the super interior. But definitely come visit us, or you could follow us on Instagram or Facebook and our website as well.
Yeah, and we do deliver about I think a 9-mile radius.
Depending on what service.
Yeah, we do deliver about a 9-mile radius, and we're on DoorDash. We can order plants on the DoorDash app, or if you order online, it's same-day delivery, which is really awesome. So yeah, check us out.
Awesome. So everyone, definitely incorporate plants into your lifestyle. It's super important. And thank you for spending time with us.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.